The recent hack of the largest gas pipeline in the United States made global headlines, and within the use, the sophisticated ransomware attack led to long lines and shortages in the southeastern United States as a result of panic buying. Hello and welcome. You're watching WION World as One. I'm Priyanka Sharma, and today on our special weekly broadcast of the WION-VOA Co-Production, we'll bring you some of the ramifications of this big attack on the U.S. energy infrastructure, along with the recent vaccination updates in America. So let's begin with our top story in this broadcast. U.S. President Joe Biden took to the airways on Thursday to assure the American public that it can expect things to return to normal over the next couple of days following last Friday's cyberattack on the colonial pipeline. The hack of the largest gas pipeline in the U.S. led to long lines and shortages in the southeastern United States as a result of panic buying. And VOA's White House correspondent Patsy Widakuswara has more about the ransomware attack in the following report. Take a look.
As officials sought to soothe concerns about fuel supply, some Americans are already paying more at the pump.
It's just one more thing that takes us into major stress.
Colonial Pipeline, which delivers almost half the petroleum fuel consumed on the U.S. East Coast, stopped operations last week due to a ransomware attack. These are cyber attacks where malicious actors seeking a financial payout hold hostage companies and governments' networks, paralyzing their service. The FBI says DarkSide, a criminal group based in Russia or Eastern Europe, is responsible.
We'll wait for our intelligence community to make a full assessment before we have more to convey about it.
DarkSide said it only wants to make money and has no interest in geopolitics. On Tuesday, Russian government spokesperson Dmitry Peskov denied involvement.
We strongly object to any accusations against us in relation to this.
In April, the Biden administration slapped sanctions on Russia for involvement in the SolarWinds cyber attack targeting federal agencies. Cyber experts say an international accord, preferably one including Russia, is needed to halt ransomware attacks.
Unless we can find a way to stop the business model, to make it harder for these criminal groups based in Russia and surrounding regions to hack and get companies to pay to release their data, unless we can help companies to have data backups, unless we can help critical infrastructure operators understand what their risks are, then this problem will continue.
Patsy Widakuswara, VOA News.
Now, to understand the consequences of this significant attack on the U.S. pipeline, we're now being joined live by Voice of America correspondent Amy Hybels from Washington. Thanks for joining us. Now, my first question to you is, are the effects of this attack on the pipeline still being felt across the United States?
That's right. It's still very much being felt. In fact, even this morning, I checked GasBuddy.com, and there are still shortages in the southeastern states of Virginia and North Carolina. So this is very much an ongoing situation. Even though Colonial Pipeline was able to restart operations late Wednesday, it's going to take a couple more days for things to really come back to what you would call normal operations. U.S. Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm said probably not until closer to the end of this weekend, actually. Now, keep in mind, the nation's largest fuel line is more than 8,000 kilometers long. It stretches all the way from the state of Texas in the south up to the state of New Jersey on the U.S.'s east coast. That would be a comparable distance of, say, if you were to take nearly 3 round trips between New Delhi and Hyderabad. So it's a very large pipeline, in fact, the largest in the country. On Thursday, in a televised address, President Biden actually asked Americans to not buy more gas than they need. There's not really a true shortage. What's happening is people are hoarding. There's panic buying going on at gas stations. People are purchasing much more than they need because of the news of the closure of the Colonial Pipeline and the hack last week. So the president is imploring Americans to try to refrain from panic buying. He's also agreed to work with U.S. governors on addressing price gouging, which is illegal. It's illegal for gas stations to take advantage of the situation and jack their prices up at this time. The administration has also taken steps to waive certain restrictions regarding the transport of fuel by ship or by truck to try to get this fuel product where it needs to be as soon as possible.
Right, Amy, just delving a little further into the Biden administration's response, the U.S. president's response to the pipeline hacking incident seems especially large, involving several areas and key members of the U.S. government. So what are some of the key steps that the Biden administration is taking?
Well, President Biden is calling this a whole-of-government response. It seems that the administration is very much aware of the potential political and economic fallout from this. In fact, conservatives jumped on social media this week and were already in attack mode, if you will. So we've seen the U.S. Secretary of Transportation making statements, doing interviews. We've seen the U.S. Secretary of Energy talking, and even the EPA, very much a targeted approach to try to respond to this incident in a timely manner. Now, after reading the FBI report, President Biden said, "We do not believe the Russian government was involved in this attack," but he did say, "We have strong reason to believe that the criminals that did the attack live in Russia." This attack, of course, raises concerns again about the safety of critical infrastructure here in the United States. Bloomberg News is reporting that the Colonial Pipeline paid nearly $5 million in cryptocurrency to the hackers. A lot of the infrastructure here in the United States is privately owned. It's not owned by the federal government, so the government doesn't have any control over it. President Biden was asked about this during a press conference on Thursday, in which he reminded a reporter that he doesn't have the right to dictate to private companies what they need to do in this regard. He did say, however, that the U.S. needs to be doing more. U.S. Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg was asked about this during an interview on Thursday. He was asked if there should be some kind of rule in place requiring private companies to protect themselves against this type of attack. Buttigieg says that he thinks as a country the U.S. is going to have to take more policy steps in this regard.